So we got about a 2-hour drive departing Coxsackie, New York, going east into Massachusetts, and then dipping down to Connecticut, just on the northern border of Connecticut, to go pick up a Hitachi ex100. Alright, well, I'm about 20 minutes from the place that I was getting the excavator, and I blew a tire, and yeah, I've been waiting for a couple hours now. It's Saturday night and there's not a lot of places open, and the only place I got a hold of, they were like $2,000 to put a new tire on. And I found another guy that will do it with an older tire that will just get me through until I get home, and he wants like $600 bucks, so that's like a real bargain right now. He's gonna come over here and put it on for $600 bucks. I learned my lesson though. I gotta keep a spare tire for the trailer and the truck and the rim and the tools to take it off and on, because I don't want to be doing this again. It was more the time than anything. I've been here for hours, and it's going to be dark by the time I load up that excavator. Yeah. Crazy. And it bent this too. But it could have been a lot worse. So I'm just thankful to not be hurt and thankful not to hurt anybody else, and we're gonna move on. I will get to the excavator hopefully just about dark, but I've come all this way. I'm not gonna turn back now. I gotta get this excavator on here, so might be doing it in the dark. Joe. There's definitely some hydraulic fluid too.
Yeah, that it was the arm up there though. Right at that. Remember we were looking the other day?
Yeah, it must have gotten really bad.
Thought it was dripping. Yeah, well, that's got to be a hydraulic line. That can't be that.
Oh yeah, that's definitely hydraulic fluid up there.
Oh yeah, it's this hydraulic line split.
Yep.
Oh, maybe it's just a fitting. Actually kind of looks like it just came loose. I don't want to wrench it and break it.
Oh yeah, it might be.
Oh, it is, yeah. That's not an old line either.
Yeah.
That's probably what it was.
I mean, it's not hand tight, but you can see it's moving around right there.
Oh, look at that. That's all that was wrong with it.
So here we are the next morning. I want to get this unloaded. I was going to do some explaining before I even put it on the trailer, but last night it was dark, so now I want to explain the few issues that I've discovered so far. Number one, it wants to stall out pretty easy. Pretty sure that's the sensor on the pump. it shouldn't be stalling out ever. So when I'm unloading this, it's probably going to stall a few times. You got to keep the RPMs really high. Another thing is the exhaust is really loud. I don't think the muffler is even hooked up right now. So we're going to get this off of here, get it down to my shop, and first thing I'm going to do is pressure wash it out because there's a lot of debris down here. And as you've seen in other videos, that is not a good combination with things that are hot. So I want to get all that out of there, and it also helps you diagnose what is leaking because there's definitely something leaking in here. I'm assuming this cylinder, I'm pretty sure, is leaking, but I don't know if it's enough to do all that. So there's something in there that's leaking. And there's not much hydraulic fluid in here right now. So this is an ex100-2. But basically I bought this machine to bring up to the Adirondacks. If you saw my other video, you know that I bought that Samsung 240 for that. But it turned out that that's just a little bit too big of a machine for up there. I can't haul it myself, and it doesn't have a thumb on it. I think that machine is just better suited for like a quarry or something, where somebody's just loading out trucks all day, or just a big job in general. But this machine already has a manual thumb. It's smaller. It fits in places where you're not smashing the cab, breaking hoses and stuff. Because when you're in the middle of the woods and there's nothing but woods around, this machine would be a little bit better. Plus I can transport it myself, so if anything ever happens to it, I can bring it home and fix it, that sort of thing. This does already have auxiliary hydraulics too, which is nice. I probably won't be utilizing them at the moment. It does need some new teeth too. There's no teeth on there. Well, let's get this thing unloaded. Okay, so one other important thing that I forgot to mention up in the field is that this is set on backhoe controls or John Deere controls, and it's really screwing me up a lot. So I don't think that there's going to be a switch for that, but I guess we'll find out. I think I'm going to have to switch hoses around to get that right. So I kind of want to do that like immediately because it's really annoying. And like you probably saw in the video, I'm having a hard time getting enough fluid to pump to these final drives to keep it moving good. It did kind of work better as I was going, but I think that's something to do with the pump, the sensor on the pump. So the guy I got this from said that because it was leaking so much exhaust in here, you can see everything is just completely black in here. And it melted some stuff in here from that. I don't think there was a fire, but it was just melting a lot of stuff. So this is supposed to go right there on that sensor. So we got to get that hooked back up. And then we might have to end up cleaning the tank out because I just put this filter on here and you can see all that sludge. See that sludge right there? If you tilt it up like this, you can see that white ring again. But as soon as you go like this, you can see all that sludge in there. It's like a little bit of water and a little bit of other kind of whatever it is. It's not fuel, so we got to get this cleaned out because it wasn't really starting when I first went to look at the machine. We actually had to put this filter on there because the diesel doesn't want to go through there with the water on the bottom. So I've been looking around for a little while and I cannot find a pattern selector for the controls. I thought that there wouldn't be one, but I thought maybe possibly there could be. So I'm not even sure where to switch the controls on this, but I'm going to shift the priorities to cleaning this out because I can barely see anything with all the junk all over the place, all the sticks and grease and oil and just dirt and all kinds of stuff all over the place. Once I get this cleaned out, then I can actually pull it in the garage and we can work on it better. So with this machine, I think it needs a full pressure washing before it goes in the garage. Okay, so I've taken like 30 handfuls out and I probably got another 20 left in there. But it's getting to the point where it's just so greasy. I just want to use a pressure washer now. Wow, look at that. That entire space was clogged. Alright, well I got a lot of work ahead of me and I'm sure you guys don't want to see every bit of it, so I'll check back in with you in a little bit. Alright, so after a few 5-gallon buckets worth of stuff getting taken out of here, we are looking in good shape. There is an excavator underneath of all this. So all the control valves are cleaned off, the swing motor, swing gear, center joint, and all of our hoses are cleaned off. Because I did notice that there was some sort of leak back here, so I'm hoping that that's just like a pilot hose or something. Doesn't seem too bad, but I want to get everything I can while I'm here. I also cleaned off in the engine bay there. There was just soot on everything from the exhaust blowing into that whole area. And I also cleaned off the pump area. Because again, there was just soot everywhere. So at this point, I'm pretty much ready to pull this into the garage. The only thing I wanted to do real quick was address the pressure sensor on the pump. And that is this right here. Because it's a nightmare to operate this thing right now with that not working right. So I got the manual for this, the service manual, and I looked at the wiring diagram and I found where that pressure sensor is. So we should be able to match up the color of the wires with the corresponding pin on that sensor. And also that sensor is leaking too. Okay, so this is actually a cord that you'd buy for like a 120 volt circuit. So that is not exactly what we need. The actual wires are over here, which they're a little harder to tell what they are. So I think what I'm going to do is just eliminate these, because I don't know what wire turns into what. So we're just going to clip them off where they're still like 18 gauge, and then we'll put some wire connectors on, and then we'll bring them up to the sensor. I almost think what I'm going to do for right now, because I don't know where a harness connector is, I have these ferrules, and I think if I use the right one, I could probably put the hole from this under the pin in there. So these black ones seem to work. And that is for 16 gauge. Okay, so that looks right then. So that's red, white, and then red and green. So I'm going to make these connectors ahead of time. I only have yellow wire that's the right size. So we'll just label them with some tape. And I probably could have pulled the wires out far enough to reach without these extensions on them, but I don't want to go tugging on something and then have some sort of rat's nest that I can't figure out later, because you can spend weeks on electronic controls. So I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. So red, white, and green, and probably only needed to color 2 of them, but just in case one of the pieces of tape falls off, we'll put the green one on too. So I'm going to look for a connector that I can buy online, but right now I'm not waiting. I want to pull this into my garage, and the way this thing is moving and running, I just want to do it as quick as possible without stalling and without getting too many fumes in my garage. So I actually have a real ferrule crimper, but I don't think we really need it here because I don't really want to go that far in. See, I could go all the way like that, but I don't really want to do that. I want to just barely go in to where I can crimp this part of it, but not this part of it. And these are so small that you can crimp them with just about anything. That's all I want right there. That leaves like a good 1/4 of an inch to go on the pin. I could actually just cut these. There we go. It's a little better. I'll just crimp this part. These are just control wires, so it's really, so there's not really a lot of current going through them. I think one has 5 volts. But probably no current. Okay, so I know the green one goes in the middle, but I don't know which side the other ones go to, but I guess it's a 50-50 shot, as long as we know the green one's in the middle. I guess we'll just try it out. So if it's working right, then I shouldn't be able to stall this. That's not right. Okay, so I tried every combination of those wires that I could to try to make this work, and nothing is making that pump work right. The pump is just running wide open the whole time. It's not angling the swash plate like it should. So something's definitely up with this sensor, or the wire's going to it or something. With 3 wires, there's only so many combinations, and I've tried every one of them. So the way the wiring diagram reads, one side is positive, one side's negative, and the middle, which is the green one, it's the red and green one, that should be the control wire. Okay, so I'm just gonna pull the 2 wires out from the outside and let's see what we got. White goes on the left, white goes on the left, red goes on the right. So with the key on, you should get about 5 volts on one of these. Yeah, so there's 5 volts. And this is the one that has 5 volts, and this is the one that's negative. So we got power going to the sensor, The sensor's brand new because the guy melted the other one. So I can't eliminate the sensor itself being a possibility, but seems like I should check somewhere else. I don't exactly know how to check the signal wire, but you know, I'm wondering where these wires go to. Maybe there's something else wrong with them. Because, you know, look at this. There's wires that are disconnected right here. Well, now wait a minute. We got a, let's see, what is this? This one, oh, look at that. That's to that one right there. So if I pull on this one, that's the green wire, and that's disconnected. That's not even connected to anything. So these are two different colors. Oh, look at that. Here's broken wires right here. Here's two broken wires right here, and they correspond with the same colors as these ones. And one of them is that sensor wire. I bet you that's the problem. I don't know what the other wire goes to, but there's only two wires. I'm just going to connect them back together. Let's see what happens. I think I may have got it. Let's see. I still don't know if the white goes on the right and the red goes on the left or vice versa, but right now we're down to just switching two wires around, so let's see what happens. That was it. That is wonderful. That was a huge problem I just solved. I didn't want to solve that in the garage because I knew I'd have to like start it up a million times, so I'm really glad I got that done. Now we can move on and actually put this thing in the garage. I still need to clean the undercarriage and the whole turntable area on the bottom here. So let me finish pressure washing the bottom side of this machine and then we'll bring it inside. This stuff I tried getting with the pressure washer. Just wasn't doing it. It's just so caked on there. I've been picking these piles up and putting them in 5-gallon buckets, and I have a lot of them. I don't know what is on this machine, but it smells like dog poop. I don't know if it's like a chemical reaction from one chemical to the other, but it smells like straight up dog poop right now. I don't know why. I can't imagine there would actually be dog poop on here, but that's what it smells like. I know this is just going to get dirty again, but I just want to get an overall consensus of the condition of this machine. And the only way to really do that is to really kind of clean everything up. So I got the manual to this excavator, and it is like 1,000 pages. I don't know exactly how many it is, but it's a lot of pages. And I've been cruising through it trying to find how to change the pattern on this, and I haven't been able to find it yet. So I think at this point, before I keep wasting time on that, I'm gonna go ahead and just trace down these lines, because I should be able to figure out, they do have diagrams of the actual pilot controls themselves. So up there, they do tell you what is for what, because there's basically 6 hoses going in. So if there was 4, then it would be obvious, you know, left, right, forward, and backwards, but there's 6 because there's the feed pressure and then there's the pressure going back out, I think, to the return tank. So I gotta figure out which one is which, and then basically at that point I can kind of follow that hose down to right here, and then I can figure out which one of these is for what, because there is a couple labels on here, but they're like worn out. I've only been able to decipher 2 hoses, and it's like a B and an H. I don't know what the rest of them are, and I don't even know what B and H are. So I think we're gonna have to do this like the more drawn out version, instead of just switching a few hoses real quick. So I'm realizing that there's only 8 hoses altogether. So what that means is that the pilot pressure or the charge pressure doesn't go through there, or the return. So basically you got the 4 functions that go in there. So that definitely narrows it down a little bit better. So now I'm gonna divide it between left and right controls, and then we really almost have a 50-50 shot of getting it. So I'm gonna start marking ones from the left control and marking ones from the right control. And then at that point, when I trace each individual hose, I should be able to trace it right to the pilot controls, and it should be obvious whether it's forward or backwards, or left or right. So this is the right control, and the top one is the right control. This is a left control. And I'm assuming that the top one is the corresponding, like forward or backwards or left or right. So those 2 are left controls. This is a left control. That's a left control. So obviously these ones gotta be right and right. Okay. So we're halfway there. Alright, so I tried tracing these hoses right to the pilot controls, and there's a couple clamps in between here and there, and it's just more trouble than it's worth to try to do it like that. So I think what I'm going to do is just switch this one with this one, and we'll see what happens. As soon as I operate this for 2 seconds, I can tell what switched, and then we can kind of assess from there. And that probably won't be the right hoses, but at least it'll tell us what switched on there, so it'll tell us what those go to. Wow, that hydraulic fluid is not looking too good. That's looking like it's dirty and it's got water in it. I think we got to do a whole system flush here. Yeah, I'm looking at the bucket that this is dripping into, and there's definitely a lot of water in there. Alright, so all I did was switch the hoses from this side to this side and from this side to this side. And I kept the top to the top and the top to the top. So, like I said, I doubt that's going to be what I need, but it would make sense that the first couple would be the ones that I need to change, because they're the easiest to get to. And also, from what I just did and what corresponds to the controls, I should be able to write it all down on a piece of paper and figure out exactly what's what at that point. And then at that point, there's no more guesswork. But maybe I'll get lucky and maybe that was it. All right, so that's awesome. So no more fiddling around with that, and I got it the first try. It was all luck, but you know, it's still nice to just check it off the list. I can't stand that backup controls. I used to run those when I first started running machines, but I can't do it anymore. Some people call those John Deere controls, and it might have very well come from the factory with those controls. I don't know. It would seem like a Hitachi or a John Deere would come from the factory with John Deere controls. But I like cat controls. That's what I'm used to, so there's no turning back. So right now, before I do anything, I'm gonna make a checklist of things that I need to get parts for. I think I'm gonna go ahead and get the pins and bushings for the bucket, get the pins and bushings for the bottom of the boom, and where the boom connects to the stick, I think it's fine, but we also need to order some teeth. I also wanna order the glass for the front here, bottom and top, and then the glass for the bottom of the door, and then the glass for right here. Sounds like it might be expensive, but it's not as bad as you might think. And you could put plexiglass in there, but it's only a little bit more money just to get the factory glass. All right, so last night I came out here and I was just looking over this machine, making some plans and a checklist. And I was like, man, it can't be this easy. There's gotta be something else on here that's gonna be throwing me for a loop. And sure enough, I checked the swing drive motor, check the dipstick, nothing on it. So I was like, that's weird. That's never a good sign, because that should never use oil. It should always have oil in it. So either it's empty and been empty for a long time, or it's leaking, or both. So I got looking around the bottom of the swing drive motor, and I realized that somebody's been in there before. You can see that weird bolt and washer setup, and then you can also see evidence of the bolts being a little bit rounded for some reason, like somebody had the wrong size socket on there. So I got looking around the base of it, looking for leaks. No leaks. So I put like 2 gallons of fluid in there, and it still didn't even come up to the dipstick. So I was like, oh man, that's really bad. That's a lot of fluid that it's missing. All the fluid that it's missing. So I got looking around. I'm like, well, it's got to be going somewhere. So I looked underneath, and there's no pan underneath, but it's bone dry. There's not a sign of any fluid anywhere underneath here, which is normal. Even if it was leaking, I don't know if it would even leak into there. But then I got looking around, and I'm like, well, it's got to be leaking somewheres here. I looked around, no leaks anywheres. So I'm like, oh man, something's got to be happening with that fluid, or something happened with that fluid. And I'm sure whatever happened is going to keep happening. So I started up the machine, and I swung it left and right a few times. And I looked around and looked around. And finally, I saw it. Yep, it's leaking. So it's leaking past, most likely, the pinion seal on the bottom of the swing motor, or the swing drive, I should say. That's where the gear goes into the turntable, and there's a seal on there that goes bad. It's actually pretty common, because I guess what happens is water gets in there and it breaks the seal. I'll explain more once I pull this apart, but basically at this point everything's coming to a screeching halt until I get this swing drive out of here, figure out what's going on with it, because it could just be the seal, which is not too bad of a job. The swing drive is heavy, but it's not really that complicated. Just a few hoses on the top, a few bolts on the bottom, lift it out of there. It's like 300 pounds. I wouldn't lift it out by hand, but I was thinking I could take the telehandler, put it over top of the swing drive, and sort of ratchet it up to the telehandler, or maybe just use a telehandler to lift it. I don't know. We'll see. But there should be plenty of room in here to do that. But once I get it out, I can figure out if there's any more damage, because depending on how long it's been dry like that, it could have damage to some gears or to a few other things in there. I won't know until I get it out though. So I guess that's my next mission here. And everything else is gonna wait until then, because it could be a nightmare or it could be really easy, and it could be half a day worth of work. But I did find that my local John Deere dealer does stock that seal along with every other seal in that unit. So I find that kind of strange, because they don't ever stock anything that you ever need, ever. So it must be a common problem, because like I said, otherwise they don't normally stock things that are wear items in older machines. It seems like they never have anything in stock, but they for some reason had all the seals for this swing drive in stock. So I'm sure this has been done many times for these Hitachis and John Deeres. So after I get that done, then we can continue on with everything that we were doing before, like pulling pins and bushings, pulling apart the cylinders to repack them, stuff like that. So let's get going. What do you think of my new baby?
It sucks, it doesn't have a blade, it's a piece of garbage.
Oh, it's fine. I mean, it'd be nice to have a blade, but they're not always found with a blade. It's very uncommon for a size machine like this. I think this is a perfect size machine for up there though.
Yeah.
This is just a little bit smaller than my Samsung. The price was really right, that's why I got it. That's the main reason I got it. I could have went with a bigger machine, but the price was right. So it definitely needs some work, but a lot of it doesn't cost much money. So we're just taking this plate off so we can check the condition of the slew bearing. I know it's going to be full of oil. Hopefully there's not too much water in there. But then once we're done replacing the swing drive seal, we got to get all the oil out of there and replace it with grease.
It's got a nice seal on there though.
Yeah. I'm just basically looking for metal shavings and that sort of
Not too
thing.
bad.
No?
Let me get you a flashlight so you can see a little better.
Well, there's no grease in there, that's for sure. But I mean, I can't really tell anything else. Just no grease, that's it. Maybe we can stick the pump in there and pump out all the oil that we can. And I think since the oil is thinner than the grease, the oil will probably go through this seal once we start pumping it full of grease. The grease will stay in there, hopefully, and then the oil will come out. Hopefully, that's the theory. So it'll be a little bit messy around the outside here, but there's like no grease inside of there. I think the oil probably washed away all the grease. Where it went, I don't know, but maybe it mixed together with the oil and came out the seal. Maybe it's a good idea to take a magnet in there and see if we get anything, poke around and stuff. So before I get going, I don't think there's any oil left in this swing drive. I think it went all into the turntable, but I'm gonna go ahead and drain this swing drive, which there's a drain right here, and it goes right out this hole. So right there is the drain to the swing drive. So right underneath it here, should be able to pop off that Allen screw and just drain whatever's left in there, which I don't think is probably that much, but it's something. I think all of it is in that slew bearing right now. There's a little bit, but not much.
I think this whole thing actually comes right out.
Yeah.
Oh wow, look at all that.
Yep.
Ooh wee.
Seems like it needs to come out.
Yeah.
It's very sun degraded. It's probably $700 at the dealer to get a new one. All that glass in there.
Oh man, that's got some odor.
Yeah, this thing just slips around there like
Oh,
that.
I see. Yeah, nice.
It's possible they might have an aftermarket one, but I don't think so. I think I'm gonna have to live with it. You know what I was thinking? I got like a half a gallon of that bed liner stuff. Probably should just clean it up and put that in there. Lots of stuff in here. Lots of debris. Lots of debris.
Debris.
I don't think this even came with AC. I don't see an AC button in there. Huh?
I said it's got vents here that are...
Yeah. I think that's just for heating. I do not see an AC compressor. No AC. Oh, well, at least it doesn't get hot up there. What?
I said if we could get the heat to work,
Yeah,
that'd be good.
it probably does work, to be honest with you. I checked, the blower works. Yeah, so what scares me is that somebody's been here before. You can see that they were labeling the hoses. That's kind of scary, because I don't know why they would have been in here, and if they're in here, I don't know why it's not fixed. So I guess we shall see. I have 2 of these kits, so should have enough. So for some reason that was O-ring face seal. This one is. I don't know why it's different, but luckily I got one of those kits too. So we got 3 more hoses on the side. I don't have any kind of cap and plug for this. I should. I did look into getting that and I just sort of forgot about it. And then we got 1 more control line or swing brake release or whatever. So I think we'll have to put one of those Rhino plugs in here. Loose.
that don't give you leverage, I don't know what will.
Yeah. That's like 10 feet altogether. Alright, go ahead.
Huh.
You're good. Go a little bit further. I'd go a little bit even further. Alright, now let me... Alright, hold on. At least do this. Okay.
Is there any way we could restart it so it's over here?
Yeah. That's the best I can do right there.
Okay. Do it better.
Is that it? Didn't even crack. That's weird. It's all good though, I'm thankful.
Yes.
Serious setup right there.
That is like everyone you got there.
Good. Let's just go very slow, because I got to guide it around some hoses and stuff. Hold on. Just a little bit. All right. Hold on. All right, you're free. All right, tilt the forks up. Tilt the forks up. All right. All right, so I would just go back slowly and until you're about to hit it, and then tilt the forks up.
Say,
You can boom in a little bit. Just tilt the forks up. There you go. Well, we're right down to the wire, huh? There you go. All right, that's as good as place as any right there. Let her down. Hold on a second. I'll grab a piece of camper. All right. Hopefully it'll balance right on that gear right there. Yep. Good. Get that crane out of here. Alright, so one thing I am noticing, there's a seal right here, and it stops right there. There's this big gap. And that's where the oil's coming out of, actually. I wonder how big of a deal that is. Oh, I guess it's got like an inch gap right there. Maybe it's supposed to, though. Got some nasty, watery soup in there. I don't feel any big shavings, though. That's good. Whole lot of fine stuff. Ooh, that's bad. That's nothing but water on the bottom, oil on the top. And there shouldn't be any of that in there. There should be all grease. Well, we'll have to pump that out. And then maybe we can lift the excavator up on the front so that all of it goes to the back here so we can get really all of it out. I'm curious to drag a magnet in there, though. I want to see what's going to happen. I almost don't want to, though. I might lose sleep over it. Let's see here. I gotta do it. Let's see what we got. I definitely got some stuff in here. It's not too bad. A couple little pieces of fine stuff, but it could be worse. That's not too bad. That one? Good? That's not too bad. Okay. Let's see how that's sealing. Oh yeah, that's sealing. Alright, so look at that seal right there. It's totally gone over here. It doesn't even start until right there. So there's what is that? Like 7 or 8 inches of seal that's just totally missing. See that? It seems like it's good on the bottom here, but then you get to right there and it's totally gone. I don't know where it went though. It's kind of weird. It almost pushed up, which would be something to do with freezing. So I bet you there was water in this slough box. The I guess they call that the tub, I think. and there's probably water in there and it froze and pushed up on the seal. So a lot of people are saying that the seal on the top of the center joint has something to do with that. I don't see how, but I guess I gotta look into it further. But hopefully I should be able to pop this seal off just the way it is right now without having to take this whole thing apart, which would be nice. There is some other O-rings and stuff in there, but if I replace that seal, tip this back upright, put some fluid in it, maybe even pressurize the fluid a little bit, and just let it sit overnight, that should tell me if it's going to leak or not anywhere else. I don't really know if this is going to work.
That's what you want.
There we go. Oh, that's a lot deeper than I thought. Look at that. All right.
Okay. Nice.
Looks like somebody
threw silicone in there.
Yeah, instead of using the O-ring, which is available at the dealer without even having to be shipped. But it looks like they did this in '96, so who knows what was available at that time. Maybe they didn't have problems until later. Let's see how strong you are.
Pinky. I can do it with my pinky. One thumb. Gives you an idea how much force that swing motor goes through every day.
A little bit of water, a little bit of oil, a little bit of dirt, a little bit of steel. So what we did here is jack up the front of this machine just with jacks here. That way all the fluid that's in that turntable or the tub tilted all towards the back where we could pull it out with the vacuum cleaner. So that's why it's looking good down there now. One thing that does concern me a little bit is the fact that there was a spring inside of that seal, and that is now in pieces inside of there. You can actually see a piece right through there. So we're going to try to magnet that out of there. But that's why we're able to just push this by hand, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But that's because the front of this machine is jacked up and the hydraulics are actually holding this in the air right now and it's not creeping. We're just about ready to put things back together here. I got the new seal Like I said, they had it right in stock, so I'm sure other people have been doing this too. But it's got like a retaining compound on the outside, and you can see there's like a little spring right there, which is pretty typical for a seal like this. It's a double lip seal. But that spring is not on here, so yeah, that concerned me a little bit. But honestly, the gears are so big in there, I think it'll just chew that stuff right apart if it hasn't already. So I'm just gonna pop the seal in there. We'll put this up on this little crane right here and fill it with fluid and let it sit. And if it works, then we won't see any leaks. And if it doesn't, then we'll see some leaks. And then I'll have to tear into it. But it's probably a good idea to tear into it anyways, but I honestly just don't feel like doing that right now. I want to put this back together. It's a good idea to check the bearings and the other seals, which are just O-rings. And I can see that they didn't put an O-ring right here where there's supposed to be one. They just put like a sealant, which is probably fine. But if there's fluid leaking above this, I believe the only other two places that the seal would be is right here and right here. And it wasn't leaking out of there, so I'm sure it's fine, and I'm sure it doesn't need the other seals, or O-rings I should say. So the only thing that could really be wrong inside would be maybe the bearings, but I didn't hear any unusual noises. I didn't feel anything unusual when it was swinging, so I think it's fine. And honestly, with how quickly we got this out, it was only about an hour worth of work to get this out, between doing the hoses, capping and plugging them, pulling the bolts, and then just pulling the thing out. Maybe an hour and a half. So if it really needs to be done later on, it's not a big deal to pull it out again, but honestly, I think 99.9% sure, I'm sure it's fine. What I'm more concerned about is why the water got into there and what I can do to prevent it. So I gotta look that up, but I think the center joint seal on the top was replaced, so I think it shouldn't happen again, because it does look brand new. In there just like a little bit. Well, I pressurized that thing and I let it sit for a little while, and it's not leaking. So we are ready to put this back in.
I think you're gonna have to tilt the forks up and then go down with the boom. You can start going down. Start creeping down. Just creep it. Hold on. I lost the plug.
Went down in the hole. All right, hold up. Creep it down a little bit. Wait. Yeah. You're gonna have to go up a little bit and then go down with the forks. All right, let it down. Down. All right. Up. So I got about a little over an hour taking it out. I got like an hour and a half going to get the parts. I got another hour to put it back in and a few minutes to put the seal in. So it's not really too bad. And that's filming it. If I wasn't filming, it would go a little bit faster. So really this is not too bad of a job. Now it helps, the bigger the machine, the easier it is. I've done this on a smaller machine and it's a lot harder. But the bigger the machine, the easier it is, the more room there is to work. I know on my Samsung 240, there's probably no hoses that are even touching that. It probably a foot or two of clearance on all sides of it. It's super easy to get to. But after seeing this, I went and checked all my machines to make sure I had oil, and all of them did, so that's good. Alright, so here it is the next day, and we got all of our fluids still in there, so that's good. So now I'm going to move on. The next thing I need to do is just complete my parts list, which right now the only thing I really need to do is figure out the pins and bushings that I need. So for instance, the bushings in here are $200 a piece, so that's $400, and the pin is, I think that's $400 as well, so it's $800. So if I can get away with just pins or just bushings, I would like to, because otherwise it's just a lot of extra money for nothing. And it could be that just the pin's worn and not the bushings, or just the bushings and not the pin. Probably I'll need both, but I want to make sure before I actually order those parts. And the same thing with the stick here. It's really loose, and I don't know if I need just pins or just bushings or both. So we're gonna pull these out and see what's what, and then we'll probably just put it back together while we're waiting for that stuff. And then we can move on to other stuff. But for right now, I need to get those ordered ASAP. Also, on the ordering list, I want to make sure that I don't need something with a track adjuster. So let me see if these will tighten up. That's good.
how bad that is. Go up a little more. It was like going like butter. Okay. Wow. Well, guess you need a pin.
Yep. Question is there any bushing left? So this takes a 65 millimeter pin, and the boss is, this boss on the inside and the outside, I saw a max of about 66, so it's not great, but it's not the end of the world. This one's pretty much right on the money. It's right over 65 on both the inside and the outside, so that's definitely good. The pin, however, is not good. I saw down to 58 millimeters right here. It should be 65. 64 and a half is what it should be, but I saw 58 on some of the parts right here. The ends aren't too bad. I think they were like 63, which is not great, but definitely needs new pins and bushings here. No question about that. I'm just hoping that there's enough of the bushing left here that it didn't egg out the bore too much, because you can see right now it's pretty oval shaped and the bushing's pretty thin, so I'm hoping that there's enough left where it didn't egg out the bore there, because then I need a line bore. I don't really want to do that with this machine, so we're gonna knock out these bushings. Even though I wanted to put this back together, we can still put it back together, I just can't use it.
There you go. It's coming out.
Boy, there wasn't much left, and this thing would have been, I don't know, I think it actually did start egging out the bore. Check. Yeah, maybe.
That's probably it right there.
That carbide blade really did it.
That carbide blade is the stuff right there.
Yeah, remember, it's family friendly. Family friendly.
It's
I know
the
what you were gonna
stuff.
say. I know what you were gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. Just under 80 mil. So we're good. That is perfect. All right, so since we need use of this arm here, I'm gonna put these bushings back in just for now, just to protect this bore, because we need to be able to press down on this to get the bushings and pin out of the boom where it meets the frame. So I'm just gonna slip this back in here. No big deal to take it out again. Like I said, that's just to protect the bore, because we know the bore is good, but it's very close to not being good, so this should protect it. It's cheap insurance. I have to lift it. Okay, now even if we need to like put some stuff in there, hold it. Perfect. Sweet. So on the pin on the bottom of the boom here, it's got a lot of play in it. So before I do anything, I want to show you guys how much play there is in it.
that is a lot of play.
Yep. Definitely didn't need a pin and a bushing. Or how much play there is and things.
It might.
Okay, so the whole idea is that because the bucket is resting on the ground right now, when that pin comes out, it's not really going to do anything because more than half of the weight is in front of that pin. Way more than half of the weight is in front of that pin. So it's going to keep that end down, and these cylinders will keep this end up. So it really shouldn't move at all. Maybe just a little bit of whatever play is in those cylinders. And then once the pin is out, I'll make the rod on those cylinders go up a little bit so that I can have access to that bushing in there. So far the pin has been coming out pretty easy, so I think we got kind of lucky. The pin should slide right out. That. There we go. Look at that.
Look at that.
Like a quarter of an inch. Exactly like I said.
Amazing.
This pin actually don't look too bad. Oh man, that's heavy. Yeah, I think that pin's fine. Yeah, it's got a little bit of wear, but it isn't much.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of grooves in it, you can see there.
Yeah.
Not too bad. Not too yabby at all.
I mean, if it lost like a half a millimeter, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth $400 though.
No. Kind of lunged forward once it came out of there, but yeah.
don't see enough play in there to be worth.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's like, I don't know, maybe like 30 or 40 thou of play in there, but I just don't think that that's worth it. Now, why don't you take that camera and pull it back? Now, let's try the bosses. Hot dog in a hallway.
That's all of it right there.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to have a machine shop. Make some shims. I better get on the phone.
At least the pin's good and the bushings are good. That's probably the cheapest way to go, right?
Yeah, but it might be the most time consuming.
Yeah.
Alright, so at this point, I've called around to get a line bore. They want around $2,000 to do it. I know that seems like a lot of money, but this is kind of a big job to line bore these bosses. The other solution, because this is not a machine that I'm going to be using every day, I don't know if I want to spend that kind of money, even though it's really not that bad. The other solution is to have a machine shop make some sleeves for this. They call that a shim sleeve, I guess. So basically what they do is they ask for the OD and the ID, and then you take this almost paper thin shim and it goes into there. It's like a sleeve that goes inside and it takes up the slack, and that's like the second best option, and it's a lot cheaper to do that because you can have a machine shop just make that and you slide it in and you're done. It's not a lot of work, not a lot of time, not a lot of money. So I think I'm going to go that route. I don't know how much it's going to cost yet, but I'll let you know when I get to that point. Right now they want the OD and the ID, which the ID is just a little bit bigger than the pin, and the OD is what I figure up in here. So inside of these bores of the bosses, I've measured them at several different places. I try to measure like this, and then like this, and then I try to just do another one in different places, 3 to 4 measurements. So what I've come up with is on this side, on this one, I got 2 and 900 thousandths, 2 and 939 thousandths, and 2 and 910 thousandths. So I think we're going to do kind of an average between them. And then on the other side, which is much more hollowed out, that's going to be 3 and 54 thousandths, 3 and 4 thousandths, 2 and 980 thousandths, and then 3 and 63 thousandths. So I'm gonna probably add this all up together and average it, and then whatever the average number is, that's probably what I'll go with for the OD. And then I'll take the pin diameter and go a few thousandths over that for the ID, and then I'll just have them make me up these bushings. And if they're cheap enough, maybe I'll get a couple different sizes just in case one doesn't fit, like if it's too much. But I also figured that if one is too big, where I just can't get it to go in there, you can't really beat on them that much because they're going to be really thin, so you'll end up really messing them up if you beat on them. So I'm thinking that if it's a little bit too big, I can always make a slice down it, which will give it just that little bit extra to kind of compress. So maybe I'll try to get the bigger of the measurements in there, and then with the intention that I can always make a slice in it to kind of take, like, 20 thou off of that, which would be 20 thou of the circumference, which wouldn't be near that much of diameter, so it wouldn't be too bad actually. But right now I'm going to call the machine shop and give them the measurements, And he said he can do them in like a day, so that sounds like a good plan to me. So in order to deal with this exhaust system, all the work needs to be done underneath of here. So I'm going to take the muffler out, take this panel off, and then I can have access to underneath.
Well, the old swing drag clean.
No, take the whole muffler off with it, I guess.
Oh yeah, you got that string holding that wire up.
Alright, so this is what they had on there, and this is like probably about a ½ inch too big. And then they had this elbow, which is got like holes in it. And then also right here, you can see it's just not the right size. So there was just exhaust leaking absolutely everywhere in here.
Yeah. Holy moly. It's a plastic bag with O-rings in it. Okay. What in the world? I was wondering why the pump wasn't working. So this was in the hydraulic fluid tank. Plastic bag with O-rings. Phew. Just when you think you've seen it all. Wonder what else is in there.
So I just got back from the machine shop, and here is the sleeve shims that I got. So this one's a lot thicker than this one. This one goes on the inside there. This one goes on the outside, and they're going to be a really tight fit. So hopefully I can get them in there. I might have to grind them down a little bit, but this should take up all the slop. When I called around to find a place that would do this, I called around a bunch of different places, and the place that I ended up going with, they acted like this was no big deal. They were like, oh yeah, we could spin that out in like an hour. That's cool. So these were 150 bucks a piece, which sounds like a lot for this little piece of steel, but this is actually harder than mild steel. This is 1045 steel, so it's like a medium duty steel. This brass hammer almost seems like it's almost impossible, but it almost seems like it's kind of damaging this. Maybe not. It's hard to tell. I do like the fact that it fits very snug in there though. I just hope I can get it the last inch there. Need like a copper hammer. Okay, so somehow that brass hammer kept damaging the outside of that. I don't know how that's possible, but I think I'm gonna try to fit this pin in here without this bushing first, just to make sure, because if I have to like grind down a little spot on the pin, I want to do it before it's impossible to get it in here. I did leave a little bit of extra play, a little tolerance, a little extra tolerance in the inside diameter of this, specifically because I knew it was going to be egg shaped a little bit, so I knew it wasn't going to be perfect, and I don't want to have like a 2 thou clearance there. I wanted a little bit more. I think I left like 10 thou. That way, even if that's egg shaped, the inside of it should hopefully be able to fit that pin. I don't know. This is all trial and error, so we'll see. Yeah,
That's nice.
oh, that's really nice. There's zero slop left in that thing. Yeah. There's a little bit, but it's not. It's like not even enough. It's just enough for the pin to go in, and I can barely feel it. Yeah, especially the more I drive it in, the tighter it gets. There is no play left in that whatsoever. That is beautiful. That's the quickest and cheapest line bore I ever done seen. Now I gotta get it out. Might have to pull it.
I was gonna say you might have to use that tube and
Nice and tight in there. Yes, sir. $300 line bore. I'll give this a little extra chamfer on it so I can go in a lot easier.
Let me just turn this real quick so I can do that. There it goes.
oh god, it's in. Ready for pin.
Ready for pin?
Shouldn't ever move, right? Okay, it's on there.
What? 16th of an inch?
Better than the 2-inch slop there was before.
Yeah, there was a lot of slop, especially on that side next to the cab there. That was a lot of slop. So that makes me much happier putting those sleeves in there. Sleeve shins, I guess we'll call them. That made a world of difference. And now I didn't have to have a line bore. Now a line bore would be perfect, but But I wasn't really looking for perfect on this machine. I was looking for quick and easy and cheap. And I kind of had quick. It wasn't easy, but it was cheap. So I kind of got some of those requests. So it was $300 for the shims. It was pretty much a day of my time between going to get the shims and putting them in and having to grind down the two sides of this one. That one went in easy. I just drove it in and everything worked and it was good to go. But this one definitely gave me a lot of trouble, which is funny because I thought the other one would give me trouble. But I'm happy with the results. There's about a 1/16 inch of play on both sides, but I could certainly live with that. That's way better than it was before. Mountains better than it was before. And the problem is the more play you get, the more it slams that boom up and down every time that you're digging. You're pushing down and then pulling up, and it's just hammering that. And the more play there is, the more travel it has to beat that, and it gets worse and worse much faster. It's compounding. It's like snowballing. So if you can get it back to very little play, then you'll get a lot of life out of it. So that's a done deal. It's back together, so we can move things around now, which is really good because I would like to rebuild these cylinders, and I also want to do the pins and bushings here. But I don't have that stuff yet, so basically right now where I'm at is that I want to go back to the exhaust. I know I'm skipping around a lot, but like I said, I'm waiting on materials for things, and also I have to do certain things when I have help, other things when I don't have help. Like right now the exhaust, I don't need help doing that, so it's after work hours right now. Let me get that exhaust wrapped up. There is a muffler that goes in there that you can get from Hitachi. I checked on that. It was almost $1,000. It was like $950 just for the muffler. And then there was also an elbow that came off of it, which is a special elbow because it's a close fit elbow. And that wasn't even available. So, plus there was some other fittings that I needed to actually mount it. So by the time I was done, it was going to be around $1,500 just to put the regular muffler on here. So I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm going to use this muffler again, and the muffler is going to be outside like it was before, and we're just going to put some new fittings on and a flex pipe, and we're going to call it good. This muffler may not be as quiet as the stock one, which I would love to have it more quiet, or as quiet as it can be, but we're going to live with that. So I think at this point, the first thing I need to do is get something coming off of the engine that actually has an elbow that's a close fit, which I know this isn't going to work, but I'll show you. So basically there's the exhaust pipe that comes out of the engine, and you can see we're only about 3 to 4 inches away from the counterweight right there. So this big thing is not going to work, which I knew it wouldn't. So I think what I'm going to have to do first thing is build a close corner, close fit elbow, 90-degree elbow. So I'll just take 2 pieces, cut them at a miter at a 45, and then weld them back together. And I did get some .025 wire for my MIG welder, so I'll try that to see if it works a little bit better instead of running a 120 volt welder. So upon further thinking about it, that would be really cool. I could weld that together and it'd be really nice. Nice, clean, crisp corner like that. But I think there's a better way we can do it utilizing this. I think what I can do is cut a lot of the excess pipe off. So that pipe, I could cut off 3 inches or more, maybe a little more. And if I do that and cut off about 2.5 inches here, I can just make this work. I think this would be a lot better because the flow has to be considered too. An abrupt 90 like that, with a diesel engine, you want as much flow as possible. You keep the exhaust gas temperatures down. And for an engine this size, I think a 2-inch pipe is just too small on a diesel engine. So a 2-inch pipe and then have a sharp 90, I think we're just asking for higher exhaust gas temperatures than really needs to be. Now it's not a turbo, so it doesn't need to push a whole lot of flow out of there, but I just think for the same amount of work, I could just cut that off with a Sawzall inside of there. It would take 2 seconds, and then I could just chop this up, and then I could utilize this. So after tinkering around with this for a little while, the best solution I came up with is to come off of the exhaust manifold like that, and then I got 2 pieces that I cut at a 30-degree angle, so they should form a 60-degree bend, which is a lot better than a 90-degree bend. We're gonna go just like that, and then right there is going to be the flex pipe. After the flex pipe will be another 90 coming up, and then I guess another 90 to go over. So a lot of bends, but it's just kind of how it has to be. Man, that .025 is so much better than .035 for this thin stuff. It was a little hard to get used to at first, but it works pretty good. Alright, so I ended up welding that elbow onto there, so that's solid. And then I got this piece here, it slips into there, and then over here I got an elbow going up, got a nice flex pipe. So now I can clamp it right there. Muffler in here. And then all I need to do is connect this elbow, which I want to put a clamp on so that I can take this muffler off. So when I was going to pick up this machine, there was a lot of water in the fuel filter, and we couldn't get it to start actually. Fuel filter right here that they added on, and it was just full of water. So I figured we should drain the fuel tank and see what was in there, and we're trying to drain it right now, and it's just nothing but water coming out of the bottom. So there's definitely a lot of water. It's still water.
Yeah. 5 minutes of water. I can't get it to really flow any faster, which I can get this guy in here a little deeper. There's like, you can hear the stuff come, like, it sounds like stones coming out of it.
Yeah. Luckily it's got like 3 fuel filters.
That's what's really blocking it. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Wow, that's
got
pure water. Right? Is that still water?
Yeah, no, it's pure water. I just gotta keep doing that, because there's like chunks of stuff. Crusties in there. Did you hear that?
That came out of it?
Yeah, that came out of it.
What the heck? What did somebody do to this thing?
This Hitachi has kidney stones, I guess.
Hopefully we don't find another bag of O-rings in there.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Wow, that's still water. I guess we really got to clean this tank out good. Oh, is that a little fuel? Oh,
it's a little, no, that's probably like rusty water.
Yeah. It's like a mixture. Is that fuel?
It's like 80% water, 20% fuel. Well, at least it's flowing now.
Yeah.
You can hear there's still like chunks coming out of it. That is no good.
So at this point with this machine, I think the next most important thing is going to be fixing these cylinders. This cylinder is actually leaking like a steady drip every 5 seconds. So definitely want to get that dealt with first. This one's not so bad, but it's getting there. It's about a drip every minute or so, but still that adds up. So the best way I've found to do these kind of cylinders, because it's a bolt-on gland cap on there, we don't need to keep the barrel in the machine to twist off the gland cap. A lot of times you do, but in this one you don't, you just unbolt it. So therefore, there's no advantage to keeping the barrel on the machine. It's better to keep the rod on the machine because you do have to take the rod nut off of the end of there, on the end where the piston is. So in order to do that, you need to secure it somehow so it doesn't spin. And what better way than to use the pin that it's already in? So normally the first step, if you don't have a bolt-on gland cap, is to twist that gland cap off. And to do that, you just do it right the way it is right now. And then once it's broken loose, then you can take and drop the rod from the top down, and then you can pull the rod out. But then you need to put the rod back up there once it's out in order to secure it so you can take the piston nut off. But we can save that whole step by just swinging it down from the top of the rod, taking the cylinder out. Then that way we're only taking it off, doing our thing, and putting it back on, and that's it. There's no other steps. So today's Saturday. I don't have any help today, but I do have a skid steer, and I do have that little portable crane, and I think I can make this happen. I guess we'll find out. The two hardest parts of this project is going to be getting that pin out and then getting the piston nut off. If those two come off easy, the rest is all cake from there. And I've told you guys this before, but what I like to do is take that end of the hose off, leave this end on. That way that hose can swing down into the bucket and you can drain all the fluid right into the bucket. If you take it off up here, if you take that hose off right here, you don't have a great way to control where the fluid goes. So then it just kind of goes anywhere. All right, that's looking promising. Well, that didn't work very well. And this is the biggest wrench I can get around here without having to order something. I'd say that fits pretty snug. This is a 1/2 inch plate, and it's about almost 4 inches wide right here, tapers down to about 1.5 inches. Now I'm going to put a really long pipe on this. If that doesn't get it, I don't know what will. geez, I didn't realize that that would be the answer the whole time. That did it with ease. I mean, I lost a strap, but that's okay. I will gladly sacrifice that strap. That was the least amount of effort, probably the safest way you could do that. Small little machine like this, barely even knew what was happening, but it was enough. The problem is, I'm pretty sure if I put a 1-inch impact socket on here, this is a 3-inch, or I think 75 millimeter. That 1-inch impact would have probably broke that loose. Probably, I say that loosely. But the problem is, you can't find anything like that locally, and I don't have anything like that. So it was like 3 or 4 days from now before I could even get to that by the time I ordered everything. So I was trying desperately not to wait that long. Now I have to cut this back off of here because I put a couple tack welds around here, but you know what? I'm glad to do that.
Okay, wiggle as in up and down or side to side? Oh, okay. Okay, there could have been a warning on how much this weighs.
This should be the seal that's leaking, but it doesn't really feel like it. It's either that one or this one. Both of them don't really feel that bad. So when I'm taking apart seals like this, I like to stack them just how they were in there. That way I know when I put them back, I have that reference. So I got the one seal that goes in the center of the piston, soaking in hot oil. These need to go on the sides of it, so I'm going to soak those in hot oil. This right here is usually the hardest part of the whole process. This one is really stubborn. Sometimes I end up taking one of these rings out so it can kind of fall in that groove. That kind of stretches it out. That gets it started. See, right now it's stretched out, so it'll probably go pretty easy. Then you got to get it unstretched out. So before I took this nut off, at about the 3 o'clock position right now, you can see that little mark that I made there on the rod. And then just above that, at about the 130 position, you can see that's the notch that I have on the nut. And so all I did is take a Dremel and just made a slight little line on there. You can use a punch. You could even use a marker if you really want to, but you want to make sure that you get that back the way it was before. I think that was a little bit excessive on the amount of torque that was on there, but we'll try to get it as close as we can back to that mark. Yeah, so somehow I got it lined back up again. I don't know how. I didn't think it was possible, but it was every bit of strength I had. So now that that cylinder is done, I want to just tackle that one because it is leaking slightly, but I don't have the seal yet for that. I didn't think it was leaking at first, so I didn't order one, but then I investigated it further and I saw that even if it wasn't leaking, that dust seal is bad, so it's going to let water in anyways, regardless. So I figured, you know what, let me just rebuild that one too. But one thing that I did know since I got this machine is that that cylinder is leaking, and I did get the seal kit for that. So I'm gonna try to attempt to tackle that one. And I got a boom lift in here, so that should make it a little easier. So as much as I'd like to leave the cylinder up here to take the rod nut off, I think we have no choice but to just bring this down. And I'm gonna have to find some other creative way to secure that eyelet of the rod so that we can take the nut off. We know that's gonna take a lot of force, but I have an idea. Alright, so that was easier than I thought, but it helps to have equipment. So I guess I'm going to put this on that little portable crane, and then the idea was to put this eyelet right in here, and hopefully that will secure it. Well, I know it'll secure it, but this pin is a little bit smaller, so hopefully it doesn't damage the bushing inside of this eyelet. I was thinking if I wrap it a bunch of times with some tape, maybe even piece of plastic or something. You know, I'm just looking at this right now and this is bone dry, but it looks like maybe we caught it just in time because there's still plenty of bushing left. I'm sure there's a little bit of excessive play in there, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. Look at that, knocks the slag off and everything for me. Yeah, so that's not perfect, but that'll work. Now I just got to put a bar on the end. I'm thinking of just going on the other end of the bar that I used for the other one. That way I have like a dual purpose wrench. Well, that was easier than I thought. Okay, well, I'm still very confused as to what this is right here. It really doesn't make any sense, but I guess it doesn't really matter. We got our rod nut off. Now we can take the piston out, and then we can take the gland off. That's all that matters. What's up? Alright, so I'll give this a little bit of grease and put it back in there. So you probably can't see inside of there, but there's a dimple, and there was two dimples, and they're about a 1/4 inch apart from each other. I'm assuming the first dimple was from the factory with the factory torque. The second one was when somebody put it back and it wasn't quite torqued as much. But I got it back up to the factory. So now we're going to put this ball back in. Put the set screw back in. That probably hasn't seen grease since 1992. But we're gonna do a grease job on the whole machine anyways. I just wanted to make sure I got this. It was really bothering me. Well, it's late at night, but I kind of want to test this out. Make sure there's no leaks. Get all the air out of the system. those don't leak. So 2 down, 1 to go. Still got to do that one. Hopefully I should be getting the seals tomorrow for that. But basically, by myself, it took me a day and a half to get that cylinder done and that cylinder done. If I had help, it would go quicker, but I'm by myself and it's the weekend. So tomorrow the guys will be back and get that cylinder tackled. We will put the new pins and bushings in over here. And then I think everything's downhill from here. A lot of the stuff that I did this weekend was the hardest stuff on this whole machine. So yeah, it's a lot of easy stuff from here. Now we disconnect the hoses. I think it's actually smaller than this too. Yeah, it's definitely smaller than that. This has got a lot of fluid coming out. You might want to put it underneath the holes in the machine or something.
It's heavy.
You got another one of these ready? Oh!
He's
I don't know why. The second one does it on both of them. The first one didn't do it. Oh yeah, look at that. Hold on. All right. Good. Nice.
okay, it's out. One, two, three.
Hold on. Let it swing down a little bit like that. 1, 2, 3, go. There we go. Got it.
It's shipping finger tight now.
Yep. All right. Just need to lift your end up. That's the way I made it. That's the biggest god darn wrench I've ever seen.
This one's like all deformed. I don't want to put that back on like that. It's not going to stay. Same with this one. I don't know what the deal with that is. So I'm just going to put the old ones back on. Just for those two. Let it go down a little bit. This needs to just go straight with what it is. Alright, so I just got this out of the freezer. I had it in there for 4 or 5 days, so this should slip right in there. I just want to make sure that that fits before I go to put the bucket on. Yeah, there's just enough play to put some grease in there, and that's about it. bosses. Got just a very small amount of play, but it's not enough play to put a shim in there, so not gonna worry about it. Just gotta keep this greased. That's the biggest key, is keeping this greased. Is if this is greased enough, then it's not gonna want to turn this too much. And turning this is what makes these bosses wallow out. Yeah, you got the bolt that goes through it, but that bolt isn't exactly tight, so it's always gonna have a little bit of play. So if you run that dry, then this thing is gonna be going like this all the time on that bolt. And eventually you might even snap the bolt, but in the meantime, you're wearing out this boss because there should be no movement in that boss. And there's very little movement as long as you keep that greased.
It's got to come down. But you're getting closer. Just keep doing what you're doing. Started.
Did I really need to come over here?
Good.
I want to see how much play it has.
Come on.
It's got a lot of sideways play.
Yeah, that's just a shim.
Yeah.
So I'm in the final stages of getting this thing done right now, and I wanted to put all the glass in. Like I said, I ordered an actual piece of glass for this. Basically because I want to be able to kick that glass out in case something happens where I roll over or something. For safety issues, I want that to be glass. The rest of this is going to be plexiglass, like that piece, and this piece. We can do that in plexiglass. But in order to put this piece in here, I need to bend this frame. So we need to straighten that out before I put that glass in there. So look at that. Perfectly straight.
Putting in this window proved to be a very difficult task. I don't know if there's like a specific way that I'm supposed to be doing this, but getting it into this first weather stripping here was like a total nightmare. I had to pry like every quarter of an inch and keep popping it in. And then when you're done, there's this space, and if you leave that there, this window can pop out. So you have to put in this like counter strip, I guess. And that spreads this part out, which makes it so that this piece right here can't come out. I went through this with my skid steer and it was an absolute nightmare. This went a little bit better than my skid steer, but not much. This was a lot bigger piece of glass, but I got it in, and I'm assuming that this piece has to be on the outside. This piece, this channel has to be on the outside, because if you put it on the inside, then down here on the bottom, there's this strip of metal and you can't get behind there to put that strip in. So I'm assuming that you have to do it from the outside, which was opposite of my skid steer. That was on the inside. And the reason it was on the inside is because this had a little ring on it, and if you were in an emergency and you needed to get out quick, you pull the ring, which pulls this strip off, and then the window pops out. But on this, there is no ring, so I'm assuming it goes on the outside. I'm sure there's somebody watching right now that knows all the tricks to this, but I don't, and I had to figure it out.
The other one is nice black oil, but this is chocolate
That's where it goes wrong. I don't feel very secure with me.
Are you kidding me? Alright, so I bought this stuff thinking it was kind of indestructible, but yeah, it's just from cutting it, so I gotta be more careful when I'm cutting it. It's a little thinner than I really wanted to use. It's only about 1/8 of an inch, but the thicker stuff was like $300 for a sheet, and at $300 I could have just ordered the windows for here. So I mean, it's still a little bit cheaper because I had to buy 3 windows, probably be around $500, but still I kind of did this to save some money. So if I'm using a 1/4 inch piece and I'm not really saving that much money, I might as well just spend a little bit more and get the right pieces. But I'm here now and I only have 1 more day to get this done, so that's not going to happen. I guess that's not too bad.
Try this stuff. I think it should work. I'm gonna also put 4 screws in there just in case, because I don't care if it falls out while I'm digging or something, but I don't want it to fall out while I'm transporting the machine. So that is not my best work, but for what I need it for, that's fine. That'll keep the heat in and the cold out. So now we got this one to worry about. And now because we messed up the first piece that I was cutting for there, I don't have enough for the front, so I'm gonna probably upgrade to like 1/4 inch stuff on the front since I need a new panel anyways. I should be able to get a smaller panel. This stuff looks like it scratches really easy too. Definitely not happy with that, but I'm kind of working with what I got, and I'm hoping to be out of here by tomorrow. So I don't really have time to change plans right now. So the goal was to leave about an 1/8 inch of space around all sides. So at first it was giving me a little bit of trouble, but then I just cut like a 1/4 inch at a time with the scissors, and I kept peeling it back to look where I was. And since this top is straight, I didn't have to cut the top. I started there with the 1/8 inch space, so I only had to cut really like the 3 sides. So now I can go and trace this. Oh man, that looks so much better than the other side. Okay, I can live with that. It's definitely good. All right, so I had this piece perfectly cut up. Everything was great. I went to drill 1 hole and that happened. Big old crack. I don't know what the deal with this stuff is, but this is like more fragile than glass. This is that optics stuff, and I realize that it's only like an 1/8 of an inch thick, but I mean, what do you even use it for if it does stuff like that? So I went out and I bought the 1/4 inch version of it, And I test drilled a bunch of holes before I did anything else, and it seemed to work fine. So I think the trick is you just got to use the thicker stuff. So altogether, I think I got like $300 into this plexiglass right now. Not crazy about that, but kind of is what it is. So again, it's not perfect, especially since you can see the adhesive. Not crazy about that. But really, it doesn't matter what it looks like. I really don't care. This is not like going on a job where customers are gonna see it. This just needs to function. So I didn't show this one because I was struggling quite a bit with it, but it's in there. And what's weird is this piece is actually removable. There's little latches that you can actually pull that piece out. I don't really know why you'd want to pull it out, but you can. Anyways, this thing is fully glassed in, or fully plexiglassed in. Half glass, half plexiglass. I'll take it. So tomorrow morning I'm going to reinstall the windshield wiper, and I think that's really all I need to do. And then we are ready to pull this thing out of here, and I'm going to do a few miscellaneous things tomorrow, and then the next day we're bringing this up north. So I got it done just in time. I did a lot of work off camera. There was a lot of fluids and filters and a bunch of other miscellaneous stuff. One thing that really scared me a lot, I need to leave tomorrow to go up north, and last night I discovered that there was some, what I thought was some broken bolts. So underneath here, there's a hole here and a hole there and a hole there and a hole there and a hole there and a hole there. So it looks like I'm missing 6 bolts. So I got some bolts and I went to put them in, and I realized there's something in there which I thought was a broken bolt. And then there's, I think, 2 on the other side. And so I started to put a 1/2-inch pipe in there and try to weld to the broken bolt to get it out. And it wasn't working. And so then I got looking up online on the parts diagram to see how many bolts there is in this thing. And on the parts diagram, they show that there's only 28 bolts. Well, I counted 28 bolts going around. So apparently I'm not missing any. Apparently they just didn't have bolts in that whole area right there. So in between the bolts that are there, there's 2 that I thought were missing in between each section there. And I'm like, oh man, I can't be going up north with that. Like, that ruined my whole week. See, there's one missing right there too. Well, actually there'd be 2. You can see the holes, but there's no bolts. So I thought that they just snapped right off. Well, it turns out there just is no bolts there. Once I found that out, I was so relieved. that was like the relief of the month right there. So you can see it's definitely a lot quieter than it was before, even when you rev it up. It's got the auto idle. Let me take that off. Let's see, where is that? Right there. There we go. But even with that full throttle, that's how it should sound. Bunch of stuff that we did in this cab that I didn't even show you guys, but we basically took apart the whole cab. The seat wasn't working, it was just flopping back and forth. It wouldn't recline, and also this dash wasn't working. Nothing in here was working. I was really worried about the temperature gauge because I really need that to work, but I ended up finding some broken wires inside of here and I put them back together, so now this is working. The only thing that's not working is the lights and the windshield wiper. I'm not really concerned about that. Even the throttle manual up and down button works. So now we are also nice and quiet in here, except for that little bit of rattling back here. But so much quieter now that the glass is on here. That auto idle is kind of cool. That way, if you're not really like constantly digging, you don't have to waste so much fuel. Huh, for some reason it doesn't want to kick out when I go out with the stick. That's weird. But when I pull back the stick, it works fine. Huh, I wonder if that works with the boom too. If I go down, it doesn't kick it out of low idle, but when I go up, it does. That's weird. Those teeth look so nice. Slop in the bucket is gone. There's a little bit of slop in the stick where it meets the boom up there, but I'm just going to keep that greased up. That's pretty common in an older excavator like this. Apparently this thing's only got 5,600 hours, and it seems like that hour meter is working, so it might only have 5,600 hours. But anyways, right now what I need to do is grease the whole turntable. You can't really grease it from one spot. When you're filling it up with grease from the beginning, you gotta grease it up and then turn it like 15-20 degrees and then grease it and then keep doing that round and around. So I'm probably going to use like 10 tubes of grease or more. So that's what I got to do right now, and then we're going to go test this out.
Alright guys, so this was another big journey to get where we are right now. Just the same as it was with the Samsung. A lot of work went into this. Luckily, this machine was small enough that I could pull it in my garage and work on it when it was dark and raining and stuff. So that definitely helped out. So cosmetically, obviously it doesn't look great, neither does the Samsung, but this one is able to be transported by me. I can transport this at any time of any day. I don't have to worry about oversized permits or anything. So that was kind of the goal. Even though I'm bringing it up north and leaving it there, I still want to be able to bring it back sometimes to fix it and work on it. I'm sure it's going to need some repairs here and there, and probably more than I want to do up there. So like I said, I did a big fluid and filters change and flush. The hydraulics was contaminated, so I emptied everything out, put new hydraulic fluid in. I emptied out the coolant, I put new coolant in that's pre-charged. And let me show you what I found out about the old coolant. So here's the coolant that I took out of that machine, and I'm gonna run some test strips through it to see if it has enough SCAs in it. And for those of you that don't know what that is, that's basically, it pre-charges the fluid so that it doesn't erode your liners, because this engine does have liners and they will erode if you don't have pre-charged coolant. So it may or may not be charged, I'm not sure. So these are the test strips that I got. Okay, so our freeze point is pretty good. That's the test strip on the right. And then our second one, last one, yeah, that's definitely within the pre-charged range. Actually, almost really nothing for pre-charging here at all. So we're definitely in the yellow. We're somewhere around here, because you take these two and combine them, and yeah, we're like at 0. So this had no SCAs in it whatsoever. I think they must have used just regular fluid in it. I kind of figured that, which is why I just did a flush and I put pre-charged fluid in there. So I'm glad I did that. Who knows how long they've run it like this. Hopefully the liners are alright. Plus that fluid just doesn't look good anyways. I also did an oil change. I changed the final drive fluids, new fuel filters, new hydraulic filters, new air filters. I did a huge grease job on this. Between the turntable and all of the joints that needed grease, I went through probably, I don't know, 15 grease containers. But overall, I think this is going to be a good machine for up there. One thing that I didn't want is to have an excavator so big that I couldn't really make trenches with it. And the Samsung was kind of that big, because I don't need a 5-foot wide trench when I'm like trenching pipes and electric and stuff. And this machine is also able to get down the road that the property is on, because there's a seasonal road that you got to go down like a mile to get there, and I'd have to trek the Samsung all the way down, and I'd be hitting trees the whole time. So yeah, I know once it's down there it's fine, but I'm just trying to think of all the benefits of having a little bit smaller of a machine like this. Obviously I love the bigger machine and I love the sound of the turbo, and this one doesn't have a turbo, but this will do everything that I need to do. I was really happy just bringing my mini excavator up there a few times, because that's something we never did before that. And now this is 3 times as big as my mini excavator, so that should be a big help. Plus I'm bringing my skid steer up, the Takeuchi, and I'm going to leave that there. So this with that Takeuchi will be a good combination. And eventually I'll probably bring up my track loader, possibly the dozer. I think that's going to be next year though. I think for this year, just these 2 machines will be a lot of help up there. But I'll explain all that later once I get up north. I'll show you guys what's going on. That'll be in the next video after this. And for right now, I got to get this loaded up on the lowboy with the Takeuchi as well, so that we can get out of here and get up there and get some stuff done, because it's starting to get cold. So I want to put a rush on this. So I guess that's it for this video, guys, and I will catch you on the next one.